Hello everybody, back for week 3. Today we're going to work on shaping golf shots. So we'll talk a little bit about moving the ball in both directions and trying to work the ball a little bit higher and lower. Before we get into it, special thanks to today's sponsor, Gourmet Donuts. It's a coffee of choice at Northern Spy Golf Club. So when we talk about shaping golf shots, I have a lot of people that say, I'm not good enough to move the ball that way, or they can really hit fades but have a hard time hitting a draw, or vice versa. They hit draws and they have a hard time hitting a fade. And the reality of that is that it's conditions, right? And if you understand those conditions and you can work and practice on those conditions, I think you can be really effective in really, creating different shapes to your golf shots. It can also be a really effective tool to use if you have a miss pattern, repeated miss pattern. Being able to work the ball in the other direction or miss in the other direction, a lot of times will get you out of certain bad habits, and then we'll give you a blueprint so that you can find your way to middle ground and actually hit the ball a little bit straighter. So what you'll see is I have an alignment rod and a couple shafts down here on the ground. Today, before we get into moving the golf ball and working the golf ball, we're going to talk about ball flight laws. So ball flight laws really, when it comes down to it in the golf swing, two things matter: path and face. And path will dictate your initial start direction and really how effectively you hit the ball in the face. So your path will tell you where on the face you struck it and where the golf ball starts. That'll tell you a lot about your path. And then face angle, whether it's open or closed, really will dictate a lot, again, in regards to point of contact, but really in your curvature of the golf ball. So while there are an infinite number of paths and an infinite number of faces, we can categorize them into 3 paths and 3 faces. So 3 times 3, that gives us 9 possible ball flights. And we're going to go over those right now. So when we talk about path, I use this hoop a lot because path is not linear. It's circular and it works on really on different planes. But there is depth to it, there's width to it, there's length to it. So we can't really look at it in one dimension, but I do have these on the ground, so it gives you a little bit of understanding level in regards just to our ins and outs. But if we look at path, the ability to swing on plane, right, and to make that golf swing happen on plane, essentially will make the golf swing so that our point of contacts are really good, and it'll make our golf swing so that our directions are really good. So in those scenarios, what typically happens is we're going to bottom the club out correctly, we're going to hit the center of the face, and we're going to path it down our target line. And what we notice is as the clubs get shorter and the golf swing gets more upright, our path is down line for a lot longer. And when that club gets longer and flatter, it's more into outs and the club spends less time down our target line. So in order to hit a golf ball straight, in order to start it down our target line, it has to be pathed there. And what we'll notice here is that sometimes people, when they tend to get outside their plane, is they turn around and they get paths that are typically left of their target. And when people get inside their plane, they tend to create paths that are right of their target. And based on timing, because there is some tilt to this, we spend a lot of time early on in the golf swing going on a path that's right of target, and a lot of time after our change in direction on a path that's left of target. So that's why golf is difficult, because we have to hit the ball in our change in direction to make sure that we're pathing the club correctly. And for a lot of us, we'll reroute the golf club. So making sure that we get the right paths is difficult. But to circle back, ball flight laws, we can categorize everything into 3 possible paths. So we have a path that I would consider for a right-handed golfer to be push path, so a path that's right of target. We have down line path, which is a path that's at target. And we have pull path, which is a path that's left of target. And we can have 3 possible face angles to every one of those paths. So we can have a face angle that's square to path, we can have a face angle that's open to path, and we can have a face angle that's shut to path. Okay, so that gives us 3 possible ball flights, and all of these 9 total. If I have a push path with a face that's open to path, what's going to happen is that ball's going to start right and it's going to curve right. That's a bad miss. If I have a face angle that's square to path, push path, that ball's going to start right and it's going to go straight, so it's going to be a straight push. If I have a path to the right and a face angle that's shut to path, what's going to happen is that ball's going to start to the right and it's going to draw back in. Same thing, we go down the line. If I have an open face, this ball is going to start down my target line and fade. Square face, ball is going to start down my target line and go straight. In a shut face, that ball is going to start down my target line, it's going to draw. And the same thing over here, you know, open face, it's going to start left and fade. Square to path, it's going to start left and just be a pull. And close to path, that's going to start left and hook. Okay, so you'll have a better understanding level when you watch a golf shot and you watch what happens to your golf shot in both of those areas. A, did you path the club correctly? And B, what was your face angle in regards to that path? Okay, and what I'll notice is that it sheds a light on how important face angle is. I talk a lot about maintaining face and trying to keep that face square to target for as long as possible in your golf swing, because when we talk about path, the in and the out and the up and the down nature of the path of the golf club, if that face angle is also moving, you know, what we get is we get, you know, a face angle that's open to a path that's right, and then we get a face angle that's shut on a path that's left. It really puts a lot into our timing to make sure that we're correct there. So when we're talking about manipulating golf shots, I'm going to take some of these out here. When we talk about manipulating golf shots, I think there's 2 ways to do it. One, you can do it from a setup standpoint, and 2, really, you can do it from a thought process and a movement standpoint. So as a right-handed golfer, you know, if I want to hit the ball with a draw, that means that basically that ball's starting out to the right and it's drawing back to my target. You know, I normally would set up square to target with a face that's square, and I would try and execute all the things that we've done in previous videos to make sure that I'm hitting the golf ball, you know, at my target and relatively straight. You know, if I'm trying to move the ball right to left, one of the things I could do would be to, first off, change my alignment, right? So my body is now going to face right of my target, right? We don't want to get in a scenario where our feet are shut and our shoulders are open. We've got to make sure that our body sets up square to my alignment, just like we do in our normal golf shots. And the second piece that I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure that my face, okay, my face angle stays square to my target. Okay, so we have to make sure face is always pointed at target. We turn our body to the right, and if we execute a golf swing down my body line with a face that is square to target, what we're going to get, okay, is we're going to get a path that's right of target with a face angle that's shut to that path, and we're going to get a ball that curves. The more shut it is to path, the more it's going to curve. The more square it is to path, the less it's going to curve. So you'll have to play around with this in regards to how much do I shut my body, how much is face different from that path line. But really what you're able to do in this scenario is kind of change some of your conditions. Same thing, if I'm trying to hit a fade, basically I'm going to set my body up open, I'm going to leave that face aimed at my target, and I'm going to swing down my body line. And what that's going to do, it's going to create a path that's left of target, face open the path, and that ball is going to fade back in. For a lot of you, how you move dictates how a golf ball curves. So for a lot of players that hook the ball, so a lot of players that draw the ball, they tend not to turn and move. They have a hard time getting that club to change directions, right? So what happens in that scenario is the paths are constantly out, to the right, and that club head will flip over and they'll hit a draw. So when I see a lot of players that draw the ball, they turn around, they slide to their target, right? Sliding to their target. They don't rotate, they don't turn, they're not changing direction of the golf club. They slide to their target, and then their hands will flip over and they hit that, kind of push draw. A lot of players that hit a fade and they hit a slice. Those are players that really aren't transitioning forward. They end up staying on their back. They turn, so they're immediately changing direction of golf club. They turn, that club gets over the top. You're going to create a path that's left of target, and then you hit that fade. So we can use those concepts to really turn around and also hit, fades and draws on the golf course. So when I'm trying to hit a draw, sometimes, not only do I set up a little bit differently, but I also think about how I move differently. So, if I'm trying to hit a draw, I really try and keep my chest down and back and in the golf swing. I'm really not trying to turn to my target. And I'm going to turn around and I'm going to slide a little bit. That'll let my hands and arms flip, and it'll turn that ball over. If I'm trying to hit a fade, really focused on getting my body to turn and stay in front of the golf club. So I'm really turning, staying out in front. That club's going to lag behind, and I'm going to be able to fade it. So what you can see in this scenario is that through my movements, I can also effectively change the way that I move the golf ball. And then lastly, it's your hands, right? So your hands have the most influence on face. Volume 1, we talked a lot about grip, how that influences the face. But if we can turn around, we can start to really move the golf ball with our hands as well. If we strengthen that grip, we get that to the right, and we really work hard for a right-handed golfer on getting the back of my left hand down to the ground. What's going to happen is you'll see that I'm turning that face closed through impact. I'm going to be able to turn that ball over. If I'm trying to do it the other way, I really want to hold that face open. Sometimes you can grip it a little bit weaker and really focus on the butt end of the club and pulling it through impact. You're going to hold that face open and you're going to fade that way. So there's a couple different ways here to effectively do this. Try it out. Try it with your alignment and making sure that that face is at your target. You can do it through movements, and you can kind of manipulate it with your hands. You can, but in any of those scenarios, you're going to be effective at changing the curvature and the start points of the golf ball, okay? So that brings us to the trajectory piece to it. So a lot of people hit low balls, they want to hit a little bit higher. Some people hit high balls, they want to hit it a little bit lower. And then you get on the golf course and sometimes you're forced to manipulate it. You have to hit a high shot, you have to hit a low shot. I think a lot of it's in how you present the golf club. So when I'm trying to hit a low shot, basically, I really want to make sure that my hands stay out in front, that shaft leans forward, and I want to shallow out my entries and exits, because that's going to promote the lowest ball flight. So again, I'm kind of locking that left wrist in. I want to get those hands in front, and I won't let my hands get above my shoulders. So I'm trying to shallow out my golf swing here. So hands forward, we get it in here, and we turn around and we move through. And you can see that I have this sort of abbreviated finish where I don't let my hands get very high. If you do that, you're going to present the club a little bit de-lofted. You're going to shallow out your angle of attack and your angle of exit, and really you're going to take your launch angle down. It's really effective for punch shots. Maybe you're not making a full swing here, so that your arms and hands don't get up as high. But what you'll see is your ball flights come down pretty significantly. Because the hands are forward effectively, getting that ball back in your stance, it's going to help present that club more, de-lofted at impact. If I want to hit the ball really high, I'm going to get that ball up in my stance. We'll have a little bit of cup in that left wrist. Now we're presenting the club with more loft, and I'm going to change. I want to be very steep in my entries, steep in my exits. So basically, I'm going to get my hands nice and high. We're going to try and get our hands high to high here, and basically what that's going to do, it's going to increase my angle of attack and my angle of exit. I'm going to present the club with a little bit more loft. Okay, so we get in here, present the club with a little bit more loft, and because of that, we should hit the ball significantly higher. So again, we talked a little bit about ball flight laws, what it means when you see a golf shot, what typically happened. And we can really go back into path and face, and how we move and what your body does typically tells you a lot about your path, and your hands, and what your hands are doing typically will tell you a lot about face. and you'll be able to kind of fix what you're doing, or even so you'd be able to kind of manipulate the golf shots. You get in a situation where you have to curve it in one direction or the other, and you may not feel like you have that in your bag. You do. With a little bit of practice, with a little bit of understanding of cause and effect, I think you can be successful in that. And then really controlling your trajectories, maybe windy days, or you want to hit some punch shots and you want to keep that ball down. Again, we know technique-wise kind of what we need to do. We want to hit that ball a little higher because we got to get it up over something. But you need, a little bit more oomph in that that club to get it to the green. You don't want to just go up to like a lob wedge and a higher lofted club. You kind of know what to do there. So hopefully everyone got a little bit out of today. The rest of the week we're going to kind of hit on, as we get further along in this, the stuff we're working on gets a little bit more specific. But again, hope everybody enjoys it. Have a great Monday, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.